Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Adam Ship My Money Share as we get you ready for a Thursday split slate of Major League Baseball. Now we've got 5 early games and 5 late games, so we're going to cover the early ones. Of course, you will have the DFS strategy show at 9:30 breaking down all of them. You will have the deeper dive combination with live before lock for the 5-gamer, and you're going to have the deep dive article behind the pay slate for the 5-gamer. Plus, you're going to have projections, rankings, cheat sheets, and articles for the early slate. So we've got you covered. Adam, how's it going? What do you think of this weather in Chicago we're having?
Weather in Chicago?
Or, Colorado, sorry.
Oh.
Well, it was cold in Chicago, too.
Yeah, kind of annoying when teams just don't announce they're going into a delay, even though they clearly are. You know, luckily we had pictures on Twitter, but like, how are you not just announced that the tarp's on the field a minute before the game? So clearly you're not starting on time.
Yeah, that's my biggest frustration. We talked about this a little bit multiple times, but the bullshit accounts from the what do you call them? The social media accounts from the teams. You don't get anything from it. You get everything from the beat writers. The social media accounts will all say, "We'll update you as soon as we know anything," and then purposefully, I'm sure they're not told anything, so they don't update anything and screw up concessions. Now, I didn't think this one was going to go myself. I have a 5% players from that game, and I said, you know what, if it happens, great. If not, whatever. But it's the frustrating thing that this happens time and time again when it doesn't need to. Now, had they said we're starting in a delay, I'd be totally fine with that announcement. That delay could have been 5 minutes, it could have been 45 minutes, or it could turn into a postponement. But I'd be okay with that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just, there's no reason for it. It's like something you would expect to happen in basketball.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in the old days. Well, and even somewhat this year. But you're right. Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Oh, yeah. So-and-so's not even at the arena.
Right.
Thanks. Derek Rose is on a plane. He took a plane. He's back in Chicago. Really? Really, no one noticed that he wasn't in the layup line.
We didn't even get that announcement. The announcement was, we don't know where Derek Rose is. He's not in the building.
Oh, good God. All right. Well, let's get on with what we have. We've got a 5-gamer here, a couple of weather spots. Cleveland, potential chance of precipitation. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. We're looking at some mostly cloudy temperatures in the mid-70s. Chance of precipitation about 30%. But keep an eye on that. And then also in Detroit, about 50% chance of rain there. So you'll want to keep an eye on that. Those are our first 2 games. We, of course, do have Colorado on the early slate, or Coors Field anyway. 38 degrees at first pitch. Possible light snow. So there you are. Just be wary of that. But doesn't look like there's going to be rain as there is this evening. But let's get into this, Adam. We'll go game by game and have a little bit of fun along the way. Reminder, if you have not yet signed up, use the promo code EARLYBIRD to get 50% off any 1-month package here at Osmo.com. And presenting sponsor, Yahoo Fantasy, also has a deal for you. If you sign up using the Osmo link and use the promo code OSMO, you can get $30 with your first DFS deposit, matched with $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points, and those are just as good as cash, and they are available for immediate use. If you go to the Osmo homepage and you find any of the Spotlight, Hitters, and Stacks articles, those ones are by me. You'll find in the second paragraph the link and instructions on what to do on how to claim your Yahoo rewards. All right, Adam, we've got the 5-gamer here. Let's assume weather is pristine. Let's assume all these are taking place in San Diego. Do you know what San Diego stands for, or what it means? Whale's vagina,
yeah.
I'm told.
Anchorman.
There you go, Anchorman. You've seen that one, or at least heard of it.
I have seen Anchorman, yeah.
Okay, I've only seen about half of it. I couldn't stand it. It was horrible. I love all the clips on YouTube, so before anybody gets mad at me, I think they're hilarious. And the Wheel of Cheese, I'm not even angry, and works 60% of the time, works every time in the fight with the other Anchorman crews, both in number first and Anchorman 2. Like all that, but I just couldn't get into the show. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Just one of those movies I didn't like, even though I like damn near every single actor that's in them, Adam.
Do you like Step Brothers?
No.
So you don't like Will Ferrell?
No, he's all right. He's maybe I don't. I can't think of a Will Ferrell movie I love.
Right. So
I
some
think
people
he's the
love him.
most amazing Alex Trebek on SNL ever.
Very good George Bush also.
Yes, that is true as well. Interesting. I like the one where I forget what it's called, but where he's the basketball player,
Jackie Moon.
Yeah, the pro basketball.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And is he in the one about skating? Blades of Glory?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I like that one. So a few of these I like. And the funny thing is, and then we'll get back to baseball, but the guy who's with him in Step Brothers, I like him in most of his other movies, just not Step Brothers.
John C. Reilly?
Yeah, John C. Reilly. I think he's a very talented actor. I thought he was, and he's great because he, even before he did all these absurd movies, he's done a ton of excellent characters and such. And I thought he just went to new depths, depths and breadths. Not that he sunk, but he expanded his talents by doing some of these other funny ones. And him as the ghost of General Stonewall Jackson.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Well, I think it's in Anchorman too.
Oh, I don't. I mean, I've seen it. I don't remember.
Yes. All right. Well, along with that, the History Channel, we're news, only much, much later. All right. Manny Benuelos we're postponing the inevitable here. Manny Benuelos going against Cleveland. We have Carlos Carrasco for the home team. Carlos Carrasco checking in at 10,200. We have a 5.1 implied run total here for Cleveland. We have a 3.5 implied run total for the White Sox going against Carlos Carrasco. I was starting to write up Cleveland as my early stack option of the day for the spotlight hitters and pitchers. Did you know that Manny Benuelos gave up 9 runs in his last outing, Adam? 3 home runs, 22.2 innings on the season. He has 49 in his career, and I was just starting to look him up. The last time he was up in the show prior to this year was 2015 when he was with the Braves. I don't think there's a lot of talent lurking here with Manny Benuelos. What do you got for us in this matchup?
Yeah, he's nothing special in my opinion. He's been okay in most of his starts this year, but I would still rather get to Cleveland bats. They're very reasonably priced. Jose Ramirez on DraftKings is still sitting at 4,400, 4,700 for Lindor is a nice price tag. Jordan Luplow in the middle of that lineup. Not that he's a really good hitter or anything, but he's good enough to provide some value on this slate. So yeah, I'm fine taking these right-handed bats against Benuelos.
All right, I wanted to see where Benuelos pitched. Let's see. Well, he was in the Mexican League for 5 innings in 2017. Otherwise, he has been in the minors since 2008 for a variety of teams. Yankees, Tampa. Who else has been in the mix? Atlanta, and obviously now it is the Chi Sox. So long path. A long path. 5.6 ERA in the minors. Not a horrendous strikeout rate at 8.9, but just never really done anything. And he's had plenty of opportunities to do so. On the other side here, Carlos Carrasco, most likely going to check in as, I guess, by default, our number 1 pitching option. I'm not sure who is going yet for the Angels. Let me see if I can find a couple other sites that might talk about that. But no one else really coming close to him unless you want to roll with Yu Darvish or Chris Bassett. So we'll talk about those guys when we get a little further down the line. But how are you feeling about Carrasco being far and above the most talented pitcher on this 5-gamer we've got?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's the pretty clear number 1 here. You have Yu Darvish in a better matchup against the Marlins team that doesn't have any power, but they also aren't the best strikeout team, and Darvish has his own issues. The White Sox have plenty of power, but Carrasco, he's the most talented pitcher on the slate, and there are still strikeouts in the White Sox lineup. So unless we get a huge ownership difference, I would rather just get the Carrasco here and hope that he's able to miss bats.
All right, and it looks interesting. Like it's truly undecided at this point from whomever is going to pitch for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. That is our next game here. So whomever it is going to be will be going against the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers, not that threatening of a squad outside of Nick Castellanos and Nico Goodrum. We've talked multiple times about Miguel Cabrera and his isolated power that is damn near negligible at this point this season. Heimer Candelario have been mostly disappointing outside of his good year last year. And then you've just got a cast of thousands here, or a cast of cast-offs with Jordy Mercer, Grayson Greiner, Jacoby Jones, etc. Nothing really exciting there. On the other side, going against lefty Ryan Carpenter, we have the amazing Mike Trout. We have Shohei Ohtani, who is back. He will not be pitching this season, but he will be batting. And then I don't mind Andrelton Simmons. What do you want to do here? I'm immediately crossing Carpenter off, but the Angels literally have no power against lefties, but they also don't strike out against lefties. What do you want to do here with Carpenter, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking to get to Carpenter. Just no strikeouts in this lineup. He's not a high strikeout guy. We got a small sample of him last year. 331 pitches against right-handed hitters, 9.7% swinging strike percentage, 418 expected WOBA, 265 expected ISO. Obviously looking to Mike Trout. I think that guys like Fletcher, Simmons, even Albert Pujols give you some reasonably priced right-handed bats in a good park for hitters. And Ohtani can hold his own against lefties, so not scared to go there either. Not a great Tigers bullpen behind Carpenter, so there's added value throughout the game. Even Zach Cozart on a 5-game slate, he's not been good at all at the plate, but he is just $2,700 on DraftKings. That's someone that can really open up a lot for you throughout the rest of your lineup.
All right. Finally found something. It looks like potentially the Angels are going with an opener, and it would be Felix Pena following them up, assuming they stick with any sort of plans like that. If it is Pena coming in as the long reliever, any interest in him going against Detroit? He is 7,300 on DK.
I'm sorry, I was reading something in chat. You talking about Pena?
Yeah, Felix Pena potentially being the long reliever.
Yeah, some interest just because of this slate. I think a lot of it will depend on what happens with the Colorado game. Like if that game goes, I would rather just go to Kyle Freeland in the 38-degree weather in Coors, or Derek Holland, because that game just got postponed, and you have and so you have him again at $5,800 in that same spot that I was willing to go to him last night. So if the Coors game is good to go, I like both of those pitchers more than Pena. But if that game has issues, then I would put Pena ahead of Richards. I would put him ahead of Tanner Roark. So it really depends on that game.
All right. Yeah, boy, that's just what we always get here. That's what we always get. So I did not play Holland. I played 3 or 4% of John Gray, and about 4 or 5% of Blackman, Arenado, and Story. So I'm just going to assume they all didn't get hits tonight, Adam, and I'm going to move on.
Yeah, I'm going to getting a 0 from Derek Holland isn't the worst possible outcome. So
that is true. That is factually correct, as they tend to say. Let's see. Let's move along here to game number 3.
Side note about the Angels, Matt Boyd is just really freaking good. 6 strikeouts in 6 innings so far against the Angels, like the team with the lowest strikeout percentage in baseball by far.
That is actually a high watermark. And some people they laugh because they're like, oh, you guys don't talk about a ton of stuff on the podcast. Well, this is first look, and we're trying to see what's happening. And we saw today, what is this? Lost track of days. It's Wednesday. So 2 or 3 times this week, we've seen lineups come out that we were like, oh, I don't really want to take a picture against this lineup. And then all of a sudden we're saying, oh my God, the Mets are doing what? I'm playing Zach Davies. Tonight it was, wait, the Kansas City's not going to go with Alex Gordon and whatever other lefties they have. They're only rolling with 2. Sign me up for some Brad Peacock, etc. So this stuff, even though it's not like basketball, some things will change on the margins, and it just gets a little tricky. It especially gets tricky on these day games after night games, because it's travel day for all the early teams, or most of them, and more often than not, the home team in these early days, they're also going somewhere as well, in addition to the visiting team, which is why they're running it early. And they tend to give guys the day off, etc., without a lot of warning. So just keep that in mind. And then again, we've got you covered with multiple shows, multiple media opportunities here to get some analysis. Back to the next game here, game number 3. This is the Miami Marlins. They're finishing up things in Chicago, going against the Cubs. We have Trevor Richards and Yu Darvish. Of course, there's not an implied run total in this game because this is in the Windy City, but it looks like it's going to be about 65 at first pitch, and it looks like currently the forecast is for about an 8 to 10 mile an hour per wind heading out to center field. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind the renovations that happened a couple years ago there in Chicago have dramatically cut down the effect of a lot of the wind. What do you like here from the pitchers? I never know what to do with Yu Darvish, but Adam, I've been taking much lesser pitchers, pitchers with a much worse pedigree and results against the Marlins, and I've been smiling about it. Do we want to go to Yu Darvish at 9,500?
If you're going to, you should probably do it against someone like the Marlins. The swinging strike stuff has been good for Darvish. That's about as, much as you can say positive about him. Control hasn't been good, but 13.3% swinging strike percentage to right-handed hitters, which is primarily what he's going to get from the Marlins lineup. Not a lot of power there. He's really been touched up by lefty power, but outside of Curtis Granderson, there's really nothing in that lineup. So I do think that Darvish is a better play today than he is most slates. The problem is that he's priced for the matchup, and he's really close to Carrasco. So again, if we're going to get a big ownership difference between him and Carrasco, I'd be okay going there. But I think if they're even remotely close to each other, I'll end up just getting the Carrasco because his strikeout stuff is still, really good, and he's facing a team that strikes out more than the Marlins do.
All right, let me get over here. I'm just curious to see. The Marlins striking out 5th most time against righties this season, 25% with their active roster. They also have a 72 WRC plus against righties, which means they are worst in the league and score 28% less efficiently against righties than league average. Yikes, that is not so good. On the other side here, Adam, we do have Trevor Richards. He will have to run somewhat of a gauntlet here. We'll have to see who gets the day off, but we should be seeing, of course, Anthony Rizzo, Javi Baez, Chris Bryant, David Bodie, Schwarber. Addison Russell has returned from his off the field Moron activities that he probably should still be in trouble for, but that is neither here nor there. What do you want to do with Richards against the Cubbies?
I don't really want to get to him at a $7,900 price tag. Yeah. Just not a lot of strikeouts in the Chicago lineup. There's a good chance he has trouble going deep into this game because it is a Cubs team that can force him to go deep in the counts as well, and just a lot of good hitters. So if you were cheaper, I'd have some interest, but again, I would rather get to either of those pitchers in cores. I'd rather get to Felix Pena against Detroit. I would have interest in Cubs righties, except they're for the most part expensive. Chris Bryant's really priced up to 5,500. Javi Baez at 54. Addison Russell at 2,900 is interesting, just because again that price tag is really cheap and it opens up a lot for you. Similar to what we were talking about with Zach Cozart. Cozart though is really bad, so I do have some interest in Russell.
All right. Oh, I'm just I'm refreshing here. It looks like we have, in theory, Derek Holland and Kyle Freeland going. They're not going to just push John Gray.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything, but that's what I'm seeing for right now.
I swear to God, I recently talked about Kyle Freeland, and it feels like it was less than 5 days ago. Let me just look this up. Let's see, Kyle Freeland.
He pitched on May 4th.
The 4th, so that would mathematically be just fine. Mathematically, it would be just fine. All right, well, let's assume it is him because that's what I've seen on 2 different sites here already. And considering they have updated the Derek Holland half of this, let's go with it. You've got, let's see, do we have implied run totals? 6. I'm going to assume that's somebody's early projections. A 6 implied run total for Colorado, which seems incredibly high considering it's going to be below 40 degrees and a chance of scattered snow showers. And you've got a 5 implied run total here for Mr. Holland. That would be an 11 implied run total for the game, Adam. Seems a little bit high for the weather, but maybe these guys will be well rested after getting the night off on Wednesday. Talk to me about how you want to approach this game, assuming let's just assume it plays.
I'm most interested in the pitching, just like I was last night. Kyle Freeland is someone I don't really roster that often just because he doesn't get a ton of strikeouts. But on this slate where there's a lack of pitching in general and certainly pitching at the bottom end, taking Freeland against the Giants team that is really not good in very poor hitting conditions is pretty appealing. And then on the other side for Holland, he has a difficult matchup against Story and Arenado in particular, but the weather should keep the ball from carrying quite as much, and he just has good strikeout stuff. He actually going into yesterday's slate, he ranked 4th among all pitchers in baseball all starting pitchers that had thrown at least 200 pitches this year in called strike plus swinging strike percentage, behind Scherzer. I think it was Snell, Scherzer, and Strasburg. So really good company up there. The strikeout stuff's been good, really going back to last year when he started throwing his slider more. So I'm willing to take my chances. He's cheap enough where even if he gives up a home run to Story or Arenado, as long as it's not multiple guys on base, he'll be fine. And you do have one, a lot of lefties in the lineup, and 2, a lot of strikeouts, especially like if you take some of those lefties out of the lineup and replace them with, Ian Desmond and Mark Reynolds, like we were going to see last night. Those are guys that'll strike out against Holland, so it's not necessarily a bad thing.
All right, I'm looking at a couple of offshore books. The U.S. Books do not have this game total up, but currently I found it on 3 different offshore sites. They have it at 10.5, but 2 of them still have Derek Rodriguez as the starter going against Kyle Freeland. So you'll have plenty of time, listeners, my fellow audience, my fellow gamers, to check that out pre-game time, but it looks like it's probably going to be in the 10 to 11 range, and I'm kind of siding with Adam on this one. I think pitching is not the worst way to go with their pricing. It allows you to work in Carlos Carrasco, and then you can start picking some hitters here. Wow. It's funny how things can change. There's a lot of factors that we forget. Now, Adam, if this game was happening in July, I'm sure our analysis would be the exact opposite of what it is today. But
very much so.
There we are. So seasons can change, variables can change, and we can change. But keep an eye on that one. 5-gamer, it's going to be tough. People may be flocking to this one if that run total stays high. So enjoy. This might be a zig when they zag moment. Final game of the early slate. FanDuel is going at 6:30 for their evening slate. There is a 6:30 game as the Mariners and the Yankees finish up their series. Let's see what our pals over here at Yahoo have going on for us. They are running their main at 7:45, but as they are wont to do, they run rest of game slate starting at every lock time. So they're running a 10-gamer at 1:10, they're running a 5-gamer at 6:35, and they're running a 4-gamer at 7:45. That's the one nice thing that you have there. The other thing that you have is the unique pricing. Makes things a bit of a challenge. You are not able to just lift and shift your entire player pool over, but that means if you aren't, nobody else is as well, because it's not going to work. It's just not going to work because of the way things are accounted for differently. They have a slightly different scoring system that highlights and elevates individual batters as opposed to stacks. And they have 2 pitchers with unique pitcher pricing that's different than anything else out there, which makes lineup construction a lot of fun. You can stack up to as many as 6 offensive players on a team, but with the way pricing is and with their position eligibility, there is no flex spot. That can be challenging as well. So it's a lot of fun over there. 3-man stacks seem to be the way to go, but there are definitely advantages in unique pricing is how I want to say it, because sometimes someone that is just a gimme on all the main sites is going to be more expensive proportionally on Yahoo, and vice versa. Sometimes if you know what you're doing, you can find people in that $7 to $10 range in the pitching, or probably in the hitting. And if you are willing to focus on numbers rather than name, you can also navigate their tightly packed pitching pricing. All right, Adam, let's get on to our final one here. We have the Cincinnati Reds, who were recently no-hit, going against Chris Bassett. On the other side, you've got Tanner Roark making his trip into the AL, so he's going to be going against a DH instead of the pitcher. I actually like Bassett in this matchup. The 8,800 I think is fair. It's going to make us think about it, but he is someone that has been a much different pitcher than he was when he first came up onto the scene 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, his curveball this year is dropping. It has like 2.5 to 3 inches more vertical movement than it had in the past. He's getting a ton of swings and misses on it. He's still not throwing it a lot. He's throwing it around 15% of the time. I would like to see him throw it more, but it does seem like having that pitch is translating into more swinging strikes overall. One spot that is interesting is that, so last year against right-handed hitters, he threw his sinker 43% of the time. He threw his four-seam fastball 10%. This season, he's throwing the sinker 45%, but he's bumped up his fastball usage to 22%. He has a 12% swinging strike percentage on that fastball this season. It was 7% last season. And there's a lot of times when you see that, and you'd have to go back and watch tape to see and really know what you're looking for. But a lot of times the reasoning for that is that it is tunneling. And so it's basically that the fastball and the curveball are coming out on the same plane. And so the presence of his curveball, even though he's not throwing it a huge percentage of the time, the presence of that curveball is still making it so that hitters are swinging and missing his fastball more. So that's a potential reason that we're seeing that increased swinging strike percentage across the board, even though he isn't throwing his curveball a huge percentage of the time. It has led to really good results. Again, small sample size, but there is definitely a difference in his curveball this year, which is really good to see. The Reds don't have a ton of strikeouts in their lineup. That's the only thing that kind of dissuades me from Bassett at his elevated price tag. It's also not the best ballpark for strikeouts because of the increased foul territory. So maybe a little bit of a capped ceiling at an elevated price tag, but again, pitching on the slate's pretty thin. I think that if we lose the Coors game, I would end up with more Bassett again, just because you're losing two pitchers that I plan on going to. But if that Coors game goes, I'm happy with whatever Bassett I get. I just don't know how much I'll actually get to. And I do think you can go to some of the left-handed power bats against him. It's a pretty big park downgrade for the Reds, but you have appealing price tags on guys like Jesse Winker, Derek Dietrich, the corpse of Joey Votto, who can't hit the ball out of the infield anymore. But I mean, it's a 5-game slate.
Oh, Joey. There were better days. All right. For those of you that did not understand what Adam was talking about, that was the good stuff. The good stuff is usually behind the paywall, but tunneling, the breakdown, how in-depth Adam, Laffy, and others go in the write-ups here for pitching is phenomenal at Awesemo. So definitely give some consideration to jumping behind the paywall here. We do have, as I mentioned at the top of the show, use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, to get 50% off any 1-month package. But we also have week-long packages. Jump in for $12, check it out. It's about $1.50 a day. You can handle that. And you should also know that you get the Slack channel with the 1-week subscription. So you can get a lot of instruction and some additional help on how to use the new tools that have been popping up here for baseball. And we have quite a few of them, and they've been incredibly helpful. So definitely give that some consideration. We're going to get on out of here. But at 9:30, you are going to have the DFS strategy show. We do have golf and plenty of premium golf content. There's a couple free articles up in front of the paywall on the main page right now. You can check that out. That locks at 7:50 on Thursday morning. But if you're listening to this podcast on what day is it, Adam? On Wednesday night, you can also know that you can tune in to the PGA show over there on the YouTube channel, which is just starting to get going. So check that out. We got you covered everywhere. With that, you can follow Adam on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMACDFS, and it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.